Star Trek is, after nearly 50 years with more than 720 episodes and 30 movies, a phenomenon which today still excites the audiences worldwide. But 50 years mean also many untold stories and projects. This is Nerdigo's insight to Star Trek's Lost Voyages. Let's begin with a series which existed and did not. To all of us, Star Trek with Captain Kirk, Dr. McCoy and Spock is well known. However, this was just the second approach. Trekkies know in 1964, the original version Star Trek The Cage was filmed. The center seat in this pilot took Captain Christopher Pike, embodied by Jeffrey Hunter. From fear this could be too demanding, this version of the series was abandoned by the responsible broadcaster, and 2 years later the pilot film, known to us as Where No Man Has Gone Before, was filmed. However, how had Star Trek looked if the original concept had been used? Little is known. But that old version was held in a more serious tone. Furthermore, Spock was no unemotional alien-human hybrid, and the USS Enterprise would have had a female first officer, what would have been rather revolutionary at that time. In a second season episode Assignment Earth of the original series, the Enterprise landed by an accident in the 60s of the 20th century, and encountered a time agent by the name of Gary 7. The episode concentrated conspicuously on Gary 7, embodied by Robert Lansing, and this was no coincidence. Gene Roddenberry hoped that this episode would spawn a spin-off named Assignment Earth. However, NBC was little enthusiastic about this idea, because Star Trek wasn't a great success for the broadcaster so far. Even though the series was never realized, Gary 7 returned in 2008 in form of a comic book series and pointed out what the series could have looked like. With the success of a small film called Star Wars, science fiction was clearly more popular than ever, and the executives at Paramount wanted to jump on the success. So they remembered that they owned this Star Trek and started to develop the concept for a movie, and this one should have been aired under the name Planet of the Titans. The story centered around a time travel incident by which the crew of the Enterprise should get stranded thousands of years into the past, and the Enterprise crew would have contributed mistakenly to the development of the human evolution. The first conceptual drawings of Star Wars artist Ralph McQuarrie showed a completely new interpretation of the Enterprise, which looked really awkward. This also did not seem to meet the expectations of the executives, and thus Planet of the Titans got dumped. After the Planet of the Titans project failed, Roddenberry didn't give up to put new life into Star Trek, this time in form of a TV show. Under the title Star Trek Phase 2, not only screenplays were written, and the classic cast with exception of Leonard Nimoy again was engaged, but even sets were built and test takes were shot as well. However, also Phase 2 should have never been realized in a planned way. In a short-term decision, it was decided that the Phase 2 pilot should be rewritten to a theatrical movie. This was the birth of Star Trek the Motion Picture. Even though Phase 2 was never realized, the screenplays could be adapted for Star Trek The Next Generation, and the former built sets had found their place into Star Trek The Next Generation and Voyager. And even the successful Star Trek fan film series Star Trek New Voyages Phase 2 adapted some of the original screenplays faithfully. Star Trek II War of the Generations was the original title for Star Trek The Wrath of Khan. The original story was about a rebellion within the Federation, apparently headed by Captain Kirk's son David. As a plot twist, it would have turned out that actually Khan Noonien Singh was behind the rebellion. This concept up to the origin of this video was unknown even to me, and few informations can be found in addition. Besides, I have also bumped into another version of Star Trek II, with the title The Omega Device. If you hardcore Trekkies out there know more about both concepts, then please let me know in the comments below. After the success of 5 movies all around Captain Kirk and his crew, but visible aging of the actors, Paramount thought about how one could continue Star Trek with Kirk, Spock and McCoy, but without the established actors. Thus, the idea for Star Trek The First Adventure originated. The movie would have shown the classic crew during their young years at the Starfleet Academy. The First Adventure would have shown the rescue of the USS Enterprise, not the known Enterprise though, but a predecessor, which would have reminded strongly of the NX-01 from Star Trek Enterprise. This concept was thought up by Harve Bennett, the father of the Star Trek movies. However, this project was also rejected in favor to realize Star Trek VI The Undiscovered Country. Star Trek The Adventures of Captain Sulu was a project in the middle of the 90s, which was very close to its realization. A series of TV specials were planned all around the USS Excelsior and its captain Hikaru Sulu. Whether interest existed was tested in a Voyager episode Flashback. Nevertheless, this did not come well with the critics. The problem wasn't the Captain Sulu concept, rather the Voyager parts that tried to forge links to the 23rd century. And thus a Trek idea had died again. Star Trek Babylon 5. So the series thought up by J-Maker Straczynski could have been called. Before Straczynski sold Babylon 5 to Warner, he pitched his idea of a space station in the middle of neutral space to Paramount and the Star Trek producers. But they declined. Hardly 2 years later, Paramount starts with Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a series which was set on a space station in the middle of neutral space. Malicious gossip has it that Paramount has helped itself in Straczynski's idea, and DS9 is just a copy of Babylon 5. Even if one may grudge to admit, parallels within the stories are very suspicious. What do you think about the origin of Star Trek Deep Space Nine? Put your opinion in the comments below. Star Trek Enterprise was the last Trek series in TV and suffered from a certain Star Trek soffit, what knocked down the ratings as well. Briefly after the planning of the 5th season began, the broadcaster cancelled Star Trek Enterprise after the 4th season. As just mentioned, they already began with the planning all around season 5. Thus the main story would have been the war between Earth and Romulus. For this reason the Enterprise would have seen a refit and would have come closer to the design of the classic Enterprise. Furthermore, it would have come to a new visit of Stratos, the cloud city known from the classic series, and the Mirror Universe story around Empress Sato would have been passed on. Even a crossover with Doctor Who was planned. Many cool ideas which got never realized. However, the Doctor Who crossover became reality in 2013 in form of a comic book miniseries. Star Trek Nemesis 2. After the end of Star Trek Nemesis, some questions remained open. For example, whether Data was really dead or did he live on in B4. These and other answers could have been given in this sequel. And this sequel would have been epic. We should have been experiencing the crews from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Voyager and TNG on the screen together for the first time. However, the disastrous box office reviews of Nemesis prevented this event. Star Trek Final Frontier should have been an animation series all around a future Enterprise. Captain Tiberius Chase would have headed with his crew into those missions one the other Enterprise crews already had, to explore strange new worlds and to seek out new life and new civilizations. However, it never got to that point since J.J. Abrams took the helm of Star Trek. Star Trek Federation is a Star Trek concept of X-Men director Bryan Singer. Federation would have been settled several hundred years after Voyager and would have shown a Federation which stands shortly before the breakdown, because it has become a monster of corruption and bureaucracy. Star Trek Federation is interestingly one of a few Trek concepts which was never pitched directly to Paramount or CBS. So one gleam of hope persists that we get to see this concept one day. What do you think? Which of these rejected ideas did you like and which not? Please leave your opinion in the comments. If you want to see more new or also older videos from Nerdigo in English, so let me please know this in the comments as well. You can follow Nerdigo also on Twitter, Google+, and Facebook. And take a look at our partner site browsergamefinder.de. You find the link in the descriptions below. And don't forget to like and subscribe us. That's it. My first video in English. I hope it wasn't that bad. We'll see us in the next episode of Nerdigo. Until then, keep on trekking.